Hello and welcome back to the Academy of the Magical Art. I am Frater Ophiel. I was thinking the other day and reading a book. It's called The Sacred Magic of the Qabbalah by Manly P. Hall. I was reading part 2 of this book, and it is on the mystery of the numbers. And while reading this, it occurred to me that it might not be a bad idea to share some of its information with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of videos reading directly from this book. Again, it is called The Sacred Magic of the Qabbalah by Manly P. Hall. Just to share this information, since most of you haven't heard of this book or read it or gone through it, it's another perspective on the vibration of numbers that can be very helpful to one's path. According to the ancient wisdom, all numbers come forth out of Ein Sof, the unknown, the dot, the absolute. The one is the primary manifestation, and as such, we are going to consider its power. First in its descent out of the dot, and then in its ascent back again into the nature of the dot. Manifesting out of the formless dot, the beginning of all things, is a state of oneness which man calls unity. All things in the world today have one natural origin. All things began as one, which came forth out of the nothing, the unmanifest. By the elongation of the dot, to the ancients, one indicated the unity of source, and a unified source meant equal opportunity for all. If all things had one source, there can be no superiority among them, except that superiority resulting from the victory of action over inaction. In short, we may say that the difference is the result of the diligence of some and the indolence of others. Since the family tree of all people can be traced back to the dot, the form of nothing and the one, its first outbreathing, there is no place in nature for persons or things which are superior to or holier than others. All things in unity have equal opportunity and equal possibility. Nothing and no one can honestly say that he never had a chance. Either the opportunity was not recognized, or if recognized, the individual did not profit by it or accept the lessons which it sought to teach. Difference in the spite to accomplish, and the intelligence of the procedure are solely responsible for the inequalities which we see in the world. Within his own soul, everyone has the possibility of ultimate perfection and the daily opportunity of relative perfection. These possibilities and opportunities remain dormant, however, until man himself awakens them by aspiration and activity. Perfection, at least relative perfection, is the undeniable goal of all things, and the length of time we are forced to struggle for it depends largely upon the abilities which we unfold and the application we make of our newborn faculties. Science teaches us that all forms are various combinations of one primitive essence. This essence, or primum hele, is the substance of the dot and manifests through its personification and extension in the one. A stone, a flower, a man, and a god are all in the differentiation of one life. A vegetable in its process of becoming an animal, and an animal in a stage in the unfoldment of a planet, while an electron is a god in the process of becoming. All things are stages in the expression of one connected life, which at present time is engaged in the task of liberating itself from the dense crystals of physical substance. All thought is a unity. All natural forces, which man uses in his various manifestations, are one in their causation. A person's ability to think does not depend upon change, but upon the attuning of his consciousness to the planes of thought so that his mental powers may be energized. Those who attune themselves to various planes of nature governing the major divisions of life will receive the influx of thought, life, or power that dwells and manifests through that particular plane. The number one also governs reason for man's labor here. There is but one motive in all of his works. There is but one end to all of his labors. He must seek to unite intelligence with that of his Creator in the Ancient of Days. This he does by adjusting his organisms to the body centers of the macrocosmic man. This sequential adjustment of internal centers of consciousness with eternal qualities we call evolution. The one source of life and the first principle thereof manifests itself in the world as multiplicity. The one causes the eternal unit is diversified into the millions of existing forms, all of which bear witness to the infinite diversity of powers concealed within the structure of the primitive one. Since this unified causation expresses itself as multiplicity, we recognize it as a stream of ever-evolving individualities pouring out the abyss of space through the one and into the manyness. This one is like a ray of light which spreads itself out, to be finally swallowed up in darkness as the spirit is enmeshed in form. All differentiation must be unified without the loss of rational individuality before even a relative state of perfection is attainable. Consciousness in man is always growing. We use the word growing to express the idea of spreading out over the area of its bodies. Its path from unconscious to oneness, semi-conscious, manyness, and then back again to superconscious unity. When he returns to his source again, however, man has a circle of a completed cycle to add to the extended point of first expression. This is symbolized by the number 10, which stands for the completion of the first round, for it is the one and the round or cipher. It means that the one has returned to itself after circumscribing the cycle of manyness. The young soul is a unity of unconscious possibilities. It is one, and yet has in potentiality endless differentiation, for it has not yet split up its rays through individualization. It is asleep. The old soul, after its wandering, is, again, oneness, containing within itself the possibilities that it has awakened to the dynamic powers, for, having split up its rays to gain the experience, it has again united them into one single end. The young soul is the expression of one pouring itself into manyness in search of all experience. The old soul has increased its oneness to contain all diversity and all manyness, and still remains one unit. If all things are phases in the unfoldment of one thing, and we are seeking to understand that one thing, what is the local course to pursue? Obviously, there is but one answer. If its manifestations are reflections of itself, the only way to understand its nature is to master the gamut of its moods. Those who are masters of the complete expression of divine manifestation are masters of the divine will. As long as a single link is missing, man cannot know his maker. As long as things combined in proper proportions form the body of the grand man, so all things produce combined in the same proportions as the smaller scale to produce the transmuted terrestrial atom, or the symbols of the species. All things move and evolve as diversity and unity. Let us take, for example, a man with a bag of seed to plant. He scatters the seed all over the field. Each minute particle grows and bears fruit tenfold. He gathers the fruit, and after removing the seed, returns it to the bag, and now he has 10 times as much as he had before. The simile is applicable to the unfoldment of the man, who by passing through diversity multiplies his acquirements, and finally, as the old soul, gathers the fruitage of his works and returns with them to unity. In place of the one latent possibility he originally brought with him, he carries back 10 dynamic powers. Realizing this fundamental unity of all form and life, manifesting through infinite diversity, infinite time, and infinite space, as Herbert Spencer puts it, the student can understand the ancient occult demand for brotherhood. If all things are individualizing sparks from one neutral source, then each is a brother to everything else. Man is not to coalesce with, but to cooperate with all living things. Upon the causal plane of life, the principle of brotherhood is universal. Upon the form side alone is the primal oneness diversified and the sense of unity lost. The unity buried in this diversity, and hence unrecognizable by the young soul, is seen in its true aspect as the sole reality by him who has raised his spiritual consciousness above the plane of matter. From the clash of material forms inevitably results a spark. When we raise our consciousness above the concrete, we then see and realize the universal oneness of life behind the illusion of evil. This realization is one of the first steps in the path of wisdom. We are to include not only human family, but all nature in our bond of brotherhood. It is our duty and our responsibility to use every natural element constructively for the good of the plan. If not, we overlook the bond of brotherhood which connects us with every part of the visible and invisible cosmos. All wanton destruction and carelessness respecting from the rights of others, generally, and harmony in those who have failed to recognize cooperation as the most fundamental and sacred of their spiritual obligations. In the oneness we find the ultimate of all manifestation. All diversity is designed to return again to its source. Therefore it is said that the life of the great outpouring has its beginning and its end in its own center. All life is consequently symbolized by a great circle which returns again to that form which it came. The serpent, with its tail in its mouth, this, however, can be understood in all its fullness only by those who have lived through the outpouring and found again the divine source. That concludes the first section on the mystery of the number one. I want to thank you for joining with me again at the Academy of the Magical Art. And until next time, blessed be.